Carjacking horror. A gang of teens on the run after a woman is dragged from her vehicle on a Gold Coast street. A $5,000 cost of living bonus to lure health workers to understaffed Queensland hospitals. A vision-impaired woman kicked out of a Queensland hotel because she brought in her service dog. Is it legal? A former foe turned friend, stability, security and trade in focus for Anthony Albanese in Vietnam. A local fisherman's heart-stopping encounter with a great white as big as his boat. And the little-known virus putting thousands of children in hospital, the must-see warning for every parent and grandparent.
This is 9 News Queensland with Mia Glover.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news tonight. Police right now on the hunt for 2 armed carjackers on the run in Brisbane. Only hours ago, they threatened a man with a machete in Bulimba before taking off in his car. Live now to Lily Greer. Lily, good evening to you. A terrifying ordeal.
Oh, Mia, this would have been just frightening for the victim involved. It's understood he was simply parked in his driveway inside his Audi when a car has driven up the street and approached his vehicle. That is as much as you see on security camera. What happens off camera is that 2 people get out of the car wearing balaclavas, armed with a machete and a shovel, and they demand that this man get out of his car. He has, of course, complied. He has come away from this uninjured, but those 2 people, they have stolen the Audi and taken off. The man's phone was inside the car, so he had to go to a neighbour to get help to call police. Authorities have rocked up very, very quickly. They have scoured the suburbs around Bulimba trying to find these 2 carjackers, eventually finding the car dumped in Stones Corner a short while later. Tonight, those 2 carjackers, they are still on the run. Police are working to try and find them. But Mia, speaking with residents on that Bulimba street this afternoon, none of them sounded too surprised something like this has happened. They say property crime is a growing issue in their community.
Thanks, Lily. Well, now to another violent carjacking that's unfolded on the Gold Coast overnight. A gang of 5 teenagers dragging a mother from her car. Live to Abby Guerin with the details. Abby, good evening to you. The group rammed her car before the attack unfolded.
The victim, Yoko Abe, tells me she thought they were going to kill her. Mia, the 50-year-old, was driving to work just before 4 o'clock this morning when her Toyota Corolla was struck from behind by this gang travelling in a second Toyota Corolla. They sped off, but Yoko followed them, not realising that there were 5 teenagers inside that car and that it had been stolen from a South Brisbane address just 2 hours earlier. CCTV captures 2 Toyota Corollas on an Ashmore street. You can't see what happens next.
Try to contact 000 and then she answered, but same time they get out from the car.
What you can hear is frightening. That's Yoko Abe fighting back as teenage carjackers drag her from her vehicle, slamming on her horn to wake neighbours.
The girls still trying to hit me, punch, then kick. Someone said, grab the key, grab the key.
The thieves speeding off in Yoko's Corolla, leaving her on the side of Ainsley Avenue. Today, the car was spotted as far north as Bribie Island.
I reckon, they're gonna kill me.
A nearby resident calling police, paramedics following and taking Yoko to hospital with facial injuries.
I have a cut the lips and then pain the neck.
She knows it could have been so much worse. Abby Guerin, 9 News.
A $21 million lifeline is on the way, aimed at tackling Queensland's health and cost of living crises. The cash injection will support nursing and midwifery graduates and get them into understaffed regional hospitals.
They're the future of our front line, but becoming a nurse or midwife comes at a cost.
We know when you have to travel to do a compulsory placement that is not paid, there are a range of costs that you face.
Now some financial help's on the way, with a $5,000 bonus to be given to 1,000 final year students annually for the next 4 years if they do their training in regional Queensland.
To help them offset the cost of fuel, of food, of accommodation when they might be working in a rural or remote setting.
Any assistance at all while you're going through that training is very much welcome.
Queensland's Nurses and Midwifery Union says localised incentives are just one important piece in a national puzzle. It's calling for state and federal governments to create a workforce plan to combat a predicted shortfall of 85,000 nurses across Australia by 2025, with burnout contributing to chronic understaffing.
The best thing we can do to retain them is to get them more workers and more support.
But the regional cost challenges don't end there. New clean bill data shows that while 30% of Brisbane GPs bulk bill all patients, that number drops to just 20% in regional areas, while they're out of pocket $3 more for a standard 15-minute consultation.
People will end up going to the public hospitals, and we're seeing that become an increasingly large problem.
Further stretching a system already under pressure. Kate Lamb, 9 News.
An alarming show of aggression from Beijing tonight. Video emerging of Chinese and US warships coming close to a disastrous collision in the Taiwan Strait. That showdown as Anthony Albanese visits neighbouring Vietnam, the former enemy tonight, fast emerging as a crucial partner in the region.
Pageantry with precision. And a grand entrance for Anthony Albanese. Flowers and flags from a former foe turned friend a long way north of the 17th parallel. Stability the goal. On firmer footing, Anthony Albanese side by side, then face to face with Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh.
Our friendship is absolutely vital to addressing the complex challenges that face us today in the region and indeed the world.
One of those challenges, climate change. Australia committing to a $100 million package of assistance and training to boost Vietnam's green energy sector and critical mineral partnerships. The other great challenge, on show nearby in the Taiwan Strait as Chinese and American warships came perilously close to a collision.
The whole world has a stake in maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. The whole world.
A new challenge for old partners.
Australia was proud to be one of the first countries to establish diplomatic ties with Vietnam.
The visit also marks 50 years of friendship, 50 years since Australia withdrew from the Vietnam War, but still some rivalry remains. The young Matildas and Vietnamese junior side sharing a pitch, sharing gifts,
give it to the goalkeeper,
and sharing a dream that some may be in Australia for the World Cup later this year.
What team sport does and shows us is the way that we want international relations to work as well.
Police are on the hunt for a motorbike rider after a tourist was run down while crossing the road at Parkwood overnight. The woman in her 20s is in hospital with serious injuries, including a suspected fractured leg. She was struck on the corner of Olsen Avenue and Parklands Drive at about 12:30 last night. Police say the rider sped off from the scene on a green road bike. Anyone with information is urged to contact police. 6 months on from the horror shooting at Williambilla, preparations are now underway for an inquest into the ambush on police that claimed the lives of 2 young constables, Rachel McCrow and Matthew Arnold, as well as neighbour Alan Dare. State Coroner Terry Ryan will hold a pre-inquest conference later this month in Brisbane, where it's expected plans for the proceedings will be determined. A family's fun day out at a Moreton Bay park has ended in a legal battle. The parents of a 6-year-old Inala girl whose finger was partially amputated by a faulty gate in 2020 now suing the local council.
Every day, Elena Haidari has a reminder about her trip to the playground 3 years ago.
I'm scared. At least once or twice a week, she showed me her finger. She said that when my finger's growing up.
She was just 3 years old when her pinky was severed in half at Pelican Park in Clontarf after getting caught in a tiny gap between the gate and the post.
It was dodgy. The gate is closed and open. It was no gap. It's really sharp. It looks like a scissors straight away. Like cut her fingers, put it down.
While the gate was replaced, her family's now planning to sue Moreton Bay Regional Council for $141,000, with their lawyer arguing council failed in its duty of care.
pain and suffering, a loss of past and future economic loss, and the costs that Elena and her family have spent on managing her injuries so far and what they might spend into the future.
The council telling 9 News it can't comment on the matter as it's subject to court proceedings.
City Council say we are no responsibility. Who is responsible for it?
Because the spaces that are provided for council in the community really should be fit and safe for purpose.
Nick Kelly, 9 News.
A hotel in Toowoomba has come under fire tonight after a visually impaired woman was told to leave by a staff member because she had a service dog with her. Janice Whittle filmed the entire confrontation on her phone and says she's fed up with being discriminated against.
In the corridors of a Toowoomba hotel, Janice Whittle, a visually impaired woman who's just checked in, is told to check out.
You will get fined, and I'll be filing a lawsuit under the Human Rights Commission for Disability Discrimination Act.
The row erupting after the 53-year-old claims management found out about her guide dog Keegan. She'd only just put her bag on her bed when she suddenly heard a knock at the door.
Because I have a service animal, I am being kicked out of the National Hotel, which I've just paid for the accommodation.
You can request a refund. You didn't state that you had a service animal. If you did, we would have refunded it before you...
Under the laws, I do not have to.
Janice says she produced her 3-year-old guide dog's identification, but that didn't change their stance.
Eventually she came back and said that she did it through Police Link, so the police will not be attending, but, you know, I will be getting charged.
Under Queensland law, handlers and certified dogs have access rights to public places and places of accommodation, which includes hotels and motels. Janice says she's often refused entry and is fed up with the constant discrimination.
We're talking cafes, restaurants, hotels, accommodations, just retail outlets. People just don't seem to understand that guide dogs are legally allowed anywhere that I go.
Well, Cam Inglis joins me in the studio now. And Cam, good evening to you. The hotel in question has just released a statement. Tell us that.
Yeah, Mia, the National Hotel Toowoomba has just responded. It says the young staff member informed senior management of what happened and was told that she'd made a mistake. She apologised and informed the woman that she'd be welcome to stay in the venue. The woman refused their request, which is her right. The hotel says it's always been inclusive of all disabilities and will continue to do so moving forward. And it's working with all staff to ensure an incident doesn't happen like this again, Mia.
And thanks for the update, Cam. Well, a man is tonight fighting for life in hospital after plunging down an embankment in the Lockyer Valley overnight. The ute crashing off the road at about 9:30, falling about 15 metres. The Lifeline chopper was called in to help fire crews and paramedics reach the man. He was flown to the Princess Alexandra Hospital in a critical condition. Drama on the water on the Gold Coast today. Fire crews and paramedics called out to Main Beach just before 11:30 to reports of smoke coming from a boat. 3 people were checked for smoke inhalation, but no one was taken to hospital. Police remain on the hunt for this man tonight after a chilling home invasion at Tweed Heads. The intruder broke in early yesterday morning, poured himself a beer and made himself comfortable on the couch, fleeing when the homeowner confronted him with a bat. Police say they have concerns for his welfare and have made inquiries with local hospitals and medical centres, but they haven't been able to find him. Well, families of the victims of the India train disaster continue to search for their loved ones as the wreckage of derailed coaches are removed from the tracks. At least 288 people were killed. Officials believe signal failure could have caused the accident.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi seeing firsthand the shocking scene and speaking to some of the more 800 injured survivors of the high-speed collision involving 3 trains. It left so many dead, temporary morgues had to be set up. This is a very big, painful and disturbing incident, he says. The government is with the families in this hour of grief. And so many are grieving. This passenger's daughter got stuck in the crash. She was crying and died right in front of my eyes, she says. Investigations continue into what went so disastrously wrong, but it appears one passenger train derailed, slammed into a stationary goods train, and more than a dozen carriages tipped onto the adjacent track, where the second passenger train rammed into them. With such force, carriages flew into the air. Investigators have ruled out sabotage as the cause. leaving mechanical or human error. One official saying signal failure was the most likely reason. The Indian leader saying instructions have been given for all types of inquiries and the guilty should get the harshest punishment. They will not be spared. Rescuers, including many locals who rushed to the scene, worked through the night to find any survivors in the tangled wreckage. Eventually, that was ended to allow the tracks to be cleared. Leaving all that could be done was to offer prayers for the dead and for the injured, with many families still trying to find which category their loved ones are in. Brett McLeod, 9 News.
The US president has averted a possible economic catastrophe. Joe Biden has officially signed the legislation that lifts the nation's debt ceiling, allowing the United States to borrow more money and prevent it from defaulting on its loans. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has taken a familiar oath of office as he was sworn in for his third term as Turkey's president. The ceremony comes 1 week after the 69-year-old won another 5 years in the top job. He then announced his new cabinet, who will be tasked with tackling Turkey's cost of living crisis. There's been a fresh wave of protests in Serbia. Tens of thousands of people taking to the streets of the capital Belgrade in some of the largest demonstrations in the country's recent history. It's the fifth anti-government protest in a month, sparked by 2 mass shootings that left 18 people dead. Well, thousands of runners took over Brisbane City this morning. The 31st annual Brisbane Marathon taking off from the Botanic Gardens before sunrise. More than 7,600 runners weaving around the Brisbane River, over the Story Bridge and back, following the river past New Farm Park and back to the Botanic Gardens.
How are you feeling, mate?
Good, mate, good.
Awesome.
How was that?
It was awesome. She just broke her PB.
More than $120,000 was raised for dozens of charities, including Cancer Council, Parkinson Research, Beyond Blue and multiple hospital foundations. And there's a push to get more events happening in Brisbane. The City Council today announcing it's slashing fees for festivals and other events. Those attended by more than 2,000 people with minimal community impact will pay just $75, down from $1,500. Schools, cinemas, gyms and churches are having their permit fees cut completely. Council says it's cutting the red tape and reducing costs to make it easier to run events in the city. We'll talk about a tall tale, a local fisherman's heart-stopping encounter with a great white as big as his boat. Suburban smash, a car drives straight through a family home. Windows shattered and furniture destroyed as a flooding emergency inundates Turkey. And downward-facing elephant at the end of sport, the bizarre craze sweeping a zoo.